So who we truly are isn't a name, isn't an idea, isn't a thought, isn't a feeling. It isn't anything that you can imagine. It's not a thing, but yet it's everything. Someone's asking me to move to the middle of the screen. There you go. I was not in the middle of the screen because I wasn't. That's the way it is. My chair is delicately positioned. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, who you are isn't anything. So you just call me Lisa, and there's a response from this body to that name. And you have an idea what Lisa is, that she's got brown eyes, white skin, blonde hair, big earrings, that she's a particular personality type, that she likes this thing or that thing. But Lisa isn't a thing, or the true self isn't a thing. The Lisa, the name of Lisa, of who you imagine, is simply what you imagine. Who you are right now is this no thing appearing as everything, is this life, this moment. So you think that you're speaking out of time, out of your personality structure, that there's a you inside your body called Dave or Alan or Richard or Karen or Melissa or Andrea or Asborn. But there isn't a continuous you. There is this moment, and in this moment, thoughts, feelings, ideas, and image arise, and they disappear in this moment. And in them contain a continual story of you. And there's this energetic, contraction, making it feel like this story of you is a continuous thing and somebody that's inside the body. So there's like holding on to that story of you. So your actual direct experience is always that life is arising from this moment. That life is free, here, and doesn't arise for someone or because of someone. It just appears. Everything's appearing. Every thought, every idea, every feeling is arising from here. The outside world, the light, the sounds, my voice, it's all appearing here. That's your direct experience, is that it's appearing here. But the person or this energy contracts and holds on to the story of you, onto this memory of you, and makes it feel like that person exists inside the body, and that person is speaking from time. Like you're somebody that exists in time, you're somebody that's really real, and that you're moving in time, and that what you're saying now comes from you, and you were born on a certain date, and you own certain things, you are certain things, you're a particular way, and it feels like I'm speaking to that you, but there's not actually a me speaking to you. There is this moment with thoughts, feelings, energies, sights, smells arising, and they don't actually belong to anyone. They belong to this undefinable experience that's now, and it's free and limitless. It's not bound. The thoughts and the feelings come up with ideas of being bound. So I am a good person, I'm a right person, I'm a wrong person. But actually, they don't come from a place of being bound. So your essence isn't bound, your essence isn't limited, your essence is mystery and unlimited, unknowable, but yet it is. This is love to me. This no thing appearing as everything. If you want, you can call it consciousness or the I am, but as long as you defined consciousness and the I am as not a thing and everything, not something that can be seen, experienced, known. It's this experiencing, but nothing experiencing, and the experiencing isn't separate from that which is its experiences. So a lot of teachers teach as if consciousness is back here and consciousness is aware of objects or knows objects, but actually the consciousness is the objects. Consciousness is the appearance of everything, and it's not located in any place. It can't be found anywhere. It is the appearance of things. You know things by their appearance, and consciousness isn't behind, it isn't inside the body. When you deeply reside in this moment, not even you, when there's deep residing in this moment, it's known that consciousness doesn't start or stop anywhere. It is the appearance of everything. Everything is conscious. And that consciousness is not a thing. And it's the same with the sense of I am. So some people, some teachers have all these breakdowns, and I am is the first manifestation after the body manifests. But actually when you deeply go, or when there's a deep falling into the I am, that sense of being, that sense of existence, isn't separate from all things and is all things and is always here. This sense that this is. And there is nothing that's aware of the I am, there's nothing that's conscious of the I am. There is simply this sense of existence that cannot be found, that cannot be contained, and can't actually be seen. It can only be seen when your mind is breaking down and in separation, and your mind is thinking about it. So as humans, where we get tied up and where we lose the plot and begin to suffer is we believe that our thoughts are true. And I think it is thinking which has created separation, but that thinking's become an energetical experience. So you've become an energetical experience. So it was as soon as we began to think that we began to have this experience that I'm a subject and you're an object, that I'm somebody speaking to you. Whereas before we were speaking, we didn't have this sense of I'm someone in here, you're over there. Like, how would we have known it? There was just everything. There was life happening. So for the animals, it's everything. It's non-boundedness. But then this thinking starts, and then this energy. Like when you keep telling yourself something, it becomes a reality. Like, I'm in here. I am a name. I am a body. I am an idea. And then this energetic expression manifests in the body, making it feel like this body is solid, like there's actually something in here experiencing, where there's nothing in here experiencing. Life is experiencing itself. It's having an apparent human experience, but it's actually experiencing itself. So there is nothing experiencing all of this. It simply is. It is. But humans believe that they are a name, that they are a limitation. And then their outside world begins to match up with that. So they begin to believe they're a subject, and then they begin to believe they're in relationship to things and to people. And then they begin to experience a world dependent on what they think and what they believe. Like thoughts have an incredibly powerful reality to them. Like if you keep thinking that people are out to get you, then that's what you'll begin to experience. If you keep thinking that the world is a bad place, then that's what you'll experience. If you keep thinking that nobody loves you, then that's what you'll experience. So it's that this is where karma comes in, or what we call law of attraction in the West, where you begin to experience what you think. The body moves towards that which it believes and that which it thinks. But that's nobody doing it. It's nobody having an experience. It's nobody's experience. And thoughts and feelings are deeply connected. So if you start thinking that there's badness out there and it's going to get you, then you'll begin to feel it in your feeling body. And then there's this ownership of it. And this is freedom. This isn't something for you. What's being talked about here, the reality of life, isn't something that belongs to you. That's strange, eh? Because when I'm speaking about it, the mind interprets it intellectually and then begins to put it to you. If a personality structure tries to condition itself on non-duality, more than likely the personality structure will become depressed. So if you start telling yourself life is meaningless and pointless, which is true on the absolute level, the human will get depressed, because on the conditioning level, life needs to have meaning and purpose. That's part of being human. And this is a very fine line of talking about non-duality, because non-duality is pointing to beyond the human. It's pointing to the absolute reality. It's pointing to that which is actually experiencing, so that which is hearing these words. But when you're identified with the person, there's this belief that the person is hearing this. So then the person begins to try and use non-duality to have a better psychological and emotional experience. But non-duality is pointing to that which is beyond the person. So the person trying to be nobody is a dangerous thing. Like meeting nobody people is a dangerous thing. And this is how cult leaders will abuse you, and how people in non-duality will abuse you, because they will convince you that they're a nobody. And because they're a nobody, they're always speaking God's word. And because they're always speaking God's word, they're always right. So everything that comes out of their mouth is God, or is consciousness, or is the absolute. So they're always right and you're wrong. And that's not true. That to me is not true. Maybe it's some people's feeling of what's true, but to me, that is very dangerous when you begin to see it like that. So on the ultimate level, this is the absolute, experiencing, speaking, doing everything. So in this, the absolute is that the absolute is speaking the character, but the character is always bound to the realms of the character. So whatever the character says is obviously, on the ultimate level, the word of the divine. And when there's a disattachment from that character, there is a shift in the character. There is a change in the character that happens. There's two things that happen. There's an expansion back to who you are, so it turns around from being a limitation to not being limited. So the experience no longer feels limited, it feels endless. But that endlessness, who you truly are, is speaking through a character form, and that character form is limited to its particular conditions, and the character never becomes unconditioned. The character will always be updating its conditioning and its genetics, and it will be behaving through its particular conditioning and its genetics. Even though there's nothing that's claiming that anymore, there's nothing that's identified with that, the character will still work through its conditions. And the conditions of the character can always grow and improve. So it can always become nicer, kinder, more balanced, more expansive, more integrated. Somebody that's telling you that they are no longer a character and they are only free consciousness that's speaking through them, and that everything they say is the divine, is, to me, in my words, more than likely trying to use that as abuse of power over people. Because I don't know why somebody would say that, unless it was to try and convince the other that they know more than the other, and that they're going to lead the way, and that you've got to follow them. It can be a mistake. So in the past, I've most probably mistakenly said it, because it's very hard to speak about. But I never really said it to get people to follow me. It's more of a mistake. In the beginning, it was very hard for me to try to communicate what happened. So, like, I would maybe imply in some way, I don't think I ever implied there was no conditioning left, but I can't remember exactly. But it is, like, right now there is nobody speaking, but it is speaking through a character. So this is Lisa's You could even say this is Lisa's point of view. So what I'm saying isn't absolutely right. It's the apparent point of view of the Lisa character. It's the up-to-date conditioning and understanding and recognition that goes through this body-mind system. And it always has to be like that. If it wasn't like that, then the master that was apparently nobody would suddenly be able to start speaking Japanese, or it's impossible. The character is always going to be set up in that particular way. So if you took like one master that's claiming to be empty, even that claiming to be empty is a conditioned response of that particular personality structure, but it's coming from the absolute. There's nothing that's identified with that personality structure, but it's still coming through that personality structure. So maybe that personality structure is a man, and it particularly likes young women and chases, or doesn't chase, but makes love with the young women. If you think that that is an act of nothing acting, man, you're going to get manipulated and fooled. You're going to get talked out of yourself and into doing mean things to other people. And I've had that happen to me, and I've fallen into these traps before. And I'm still most probably unconditioning my brain from that, having been with lots of different organizations. That's a conditioned instrument. That's an instrument that has attraction to one young woman. And yes, it's obviously acting out life's will. Like, that's what life is doing in that moment, but it comes through a conditioned body. And if that conditioned body was to like young men, it would go for young men. And if that conditioned body was to like animals, it would go for animals. And if it was to like old people, it would go for old people. But that's a conditioned bodily response. And it's most probably not that dissimilar before the awakening, if there was an awakening. Than that. Like, so if a guru that you're following is sleeping with all the young women in the organization, that is not a non-conditioned body. That is a conditioned body. Wake up! Wake up! That is a manipulation from a human that's using it as an excuse to do what he wants. That's what he wants, or that's what she wants, is to do that. And there's nothing wrong with it on the absolute, but on the human level, it's good or bad dependent on how you see things, which is down to you. It's more important to go with what your feeling is, whether you feel it's good or bad. Not good or bad on the absolute level, but on the feeling body, like whether you feel attracted to that or not attracted to that. But if they start saying it's life's will, obviously on the absolute level it's life's will that wants to sleep with that young woman, but on the bodily level that human is attracted, otherwise the penis wouldn't get erected. There is a desire in that body. This is such a dangerous line for non-duality. And not just non-duality, this happens in Christianity, evangelicals, I'm sure it happens in Islam and Sufism, where there is a human with power. A human with power. Human with power. And actually, I don't think it's about having morals or not morals that are inflicted on humanity. So this is right or this isn't right. You should sleep with this person, you shouldn't sleep with this, or you should behave like that. I think that the more and more the more and more the human becomes balanced and open and vulnerable and honest, the more it can just intuitively feel what's right and wrong. It can intuitively feel that walking past somebody on the street that's fallen over and bleeding and need help is not correct, and to go back to that person And it can intuitively feel when maybe somebody's acting injured as a way to con you. Like it can intuitively feel these sorts of things as the person becomes more balanced. I feel like on the human level, we're so hypnotized by thinking that we forget that our body has so much knowledge and information. Like our genes are made up of millions and millions of years of evolution, and our body knows deeply these things. It also might be not true for all humans. Maybe some people are less sensitive. So it's not so much an inflicted morality, it's more of like a natural morality. Like there's this intuitive feeling of what's expansive, and it doesn't always maybe look moral in the sense of like maybe there's like somebody really ill on the street, and intuitively there's a feeling that there shouldn't be an interaction, or maybe something's going to help them later, or there's another person, there's an intuitive feeling to help from an expansive place. So somebody's saying human nature can be so dark. Yeah, it can be really dark, and we've all traumatized each other, I think, through this. I get the sense that there's different types of humans. There is humans with empathy and compassion, and there's humans that are without empathy and compassion. And it's almost like they're two different species, maybe like Neanderthals. I always struggle with that word, Neanderthals. I can't say it. And humans. And unfortunately, I think that what's happened over the last couple of thousand years, maybe longer, is that we've been predominantly run and led by humans that have low empathy and low conscientiousness. And I think there's many reasons why that's happened. And I think that's also very hard to accept, that there's almost like these two different humans, and it's totally impersonal. But if you look at stories, so if you look at mythology, you'll begin to see that there's always this argument in humanity between good and bad, and and there's all these different stories of what goodness and badness is, and there's lots of different examples of it. But I get this sense that there's in those stories, there is this this pointing to these humans that don't have empathy and conscientiousness. And a true and a great leader is somebody that has compassion and struggles internally with some of the tough decisions that they have to make. So it actually hurts them, some of the tough decisions. So they're like like a true, in our stories, in mythology, the true hero always internally struggles with making tough decisions. Whereas the one without empathy and compassion, which predominantly leads our societies, make them easily and don't have that internal struggle. And that internal struggle is very good, because it means that that character is not dominated by them succeeding and them having power. It means that they're actually dominated by the benefit of all, of trying to make it fair and successful for all. The ones that don't have conscientiousness and empathy will solely be driven by power and getting what they want. What they want. And these like are two different personality types. And it's not that one is wrong or right, it's what's led us to this moment of evolution. But I just think it's really important to recognize, especially when you're talking about this subject, in the sense of this teaching, because I think a lot of teachers have tried to imply that they have these empty personalities that are only acting out God's word, and everything they do is right, superior, and better than the students. And I fundamentally disagree with this. And I think it's a perfect demonstration of somebody that is just trying to get power over people, other people. And I think it misleads students into believing that they one day will become a perfect superhuman, and that they have to submit to what other people or what their teacher or what the guru tells them they have to do for them, whether it be sexual, whether it be big amounts of money, whatever it be. On the ultimate level, though, there is no good and bad, and this is all one dance of one. But in the apparent dream of humans, if you're constantly following this superhuman that's always telling you you're going to be superhuman, you're going to be locked in this world of always trying to be perfect and to run away from your imperfections, and you'll be stuck in a loop of trying to be perfect. And never making it, always having to look up to this person that's more perfect than you. This is becoming truly who you are, which is imperfect, and it is embracing your imperfections. And as you embrace your imperfections on the human level, you will embrace others. And when there is a settling into what you are, as long as you're not somebody that's only focused on what they want and what they can get from the world, so somebody without empathy or compassion or conscientiousness, what will begin to happen is you'll begin to sink into this natural flow. So in becoming more yourself, you'll sink into this natural flow which won't be greedy or selfish or only focused on your wants. Your heart will want to give to the group. Your heart will be in a place of giving and not taking. Then the people without empathy are always about taking and taking, even in telling you that they have no humanness left and they are beyond being human, is taking from you. It's a form of taking, big time. It's greediness. They're sucking in your belief to make them to make them better and more powerful. Well, you believe in these characters without empathy and conscientiousness. You will always be ignoring your natural intuitive feelings and believing your mind, your thinking mind over others, because you know it's not true deep down in your being, but you're too scared to stand alone. You're too scared to stand in yourself and say, I don't believe you, I don't trust you. So therefore you always seek for their approval, and in seeking for their approval, they always have the power over you. It's the same in relationships. To stand in what you know to be true, which is your own being on the human level, which is your own responses right here, not from a contracted place, not from a place of hatred, that's all the surface levels, but from a deep, expansive place. like an honest place. Not a place of trying to get power, of trying to get revenge, of trying to put other people down, of trying to be better than, but from this expansive place. You know what's true. It's deep. You know what wants to happen. You know which way to go. You know what you want and you don't want. But you're petrified of it because you're petrified of your own aloneness. And beyond that, so beyond the human level, so deeper than that, you are all one. You are totally alone. You're no thing appearing as everything, and that's home. That is home. The reason that why light for you, right? So I just can see all the chat coming up, and it's I can see why light's putting lots of comments. I can't see what they comment because it's too quick. But I saw somebody say, why do you do that? Because he's a perfect example of someone trying to seek for power over people. And he can't get power over me. So therefore there is a great agitation and annoyance inside of him. He tried to be nice in the beginning to get my attention, and it didn't work. But like nice, but with a power, like nice, but you have to listen to me because I know better than you. And then when I didn't listen to him, it started getting more and more negative, and now it's just abuseful. But if he had empathy or compassion, he would be able to see that, and he'd be able to reflect on the way he's behaving or speaking, and that he obviously doesn't need to listen if he doesn't like it, but more than likely the story he'll be telling himself is, I've got to save all these other people from her. She is dangerous. My comments will save people. So I let him comment because I always think it's good to just have all the comments out there so that there's no hiding of anything. So anyone that dislikes me, but I can tell you his passion is totally personal, and it's personal to him because he can't overpower me. And that's all that's important to him. And it is a him. I'm not victim to you. You're victim to yourself. It's going to be so painful for him to hear this. His rage towards me is going to get worse and worse, and he'll start commenting more. It will be like burning in his heart, like and in his neck, like he'll feel really enraged, and the comments will come even more, like how dare she, and he'll really believe he's right and that he's got to save other people from me. I know that passion. I'm the only one calling her out on it. I've got to save all you guys from her. She's so terrible. But I think it's really good for any speaker that they must allow negative comments. So I must allow all of this. Like people sometimes ask me to turn off chat, which I do if it gets like sexually abusive or very abusive. But I think it's really important that all perspectives are put across, so that people can make up their own mind and follow their own heart and their own feeling, and they're not talked into something. What becomes dangerous is when teachers segregate their students and try to get them into only one belief system, like you mustn't go to any other teachers, you mustn't hear any negative feedback. Negative feedback is vital. And then eventually you begin to see that nothing is true. Even everything that I've said tonight was the perspective of this particular body-mind, but coming through, like, from this particular body-mind, and this particular body-mind has a particular flavour to it. It doesn't mean it's right. And then ultimately, on the ultimate level, it's coming from nothing. Nothing. There's nobody here that's owning it, it's just coming out. It's just speaking out. And perceptions do always change. And it's seeing that who you are is beyond any perception, any thought, any story. That nothing is on the absolute level true. Your essence is always free. And then the character has ideas and thoughts, but none of that will lead you to freedom. None of that is what you're actually looking for. It's thoughts. This instrument thinks, it evolves, it always evolves. Knowledge is infinite, it can endlessly evolve. Feelings are infinite, they can endlessly evolve. Everything can endlessly evolve. And none of it belongs to anyone. We're always like, this is my intelligence, this is my belief systems, and this limits you, this stops you growing. It's endless what you can possibly be. And it's like the more that you listen and put things in and look from different angles, the more that it can expand. But then you can only expand and really, really, truly grow when you know none of that is you. That anything is possible, anything. And there's nothing that you can get stuck on. Nothing that you can get stuck on. So I hope that that information can open up any ideas in your mind of limitation. And then energetically there can be a tuning in to something else, something that's infinite, that we all have, but it's forgotten, that your essence is infinite, that who you truly are is infinite. I shall now go to some questions.